Let me share with you one of my favorite tools for developing self-compassion as you do your mindset work. And as you may know, or hopefully know by now, my approach to this work is all about self-compassion. I believe when we're compassionate with ourselves, we can rebuild self-trust. And when we have internal and full self-trust, I believe that's where we create unstoppable confidence that allows us to go after whatever we want. So what does self-compassion look like? Well, it means a lot of things, and it certainly means loving yourself, but it doesn't just mean that, or it means that, but how do you create that? And I'm going to share now what I think is one of the most helpful tools in that journey of being more compassionate with ourselves, which in turn also means being compassionate with others. And so that is learning how to be curious and not judgmental, how to approach our thoughts, our feelings, our actions with curiosity and not judgment. So what do I mean by that? Well, when we have a thought, rather than going into our immediate reaction of, that's wrong, that's bad, why am I doing that? I hate that about myself, I wish I could stop that. All of these really critical ways of examining or looking at our thoughts. Shifting to curiosity, meaning asking questions. First, observing. Oh, there's a thought, look what's happening. Removing it from self, making it less personal, and just observing that there is a thought. And then getting curious about the thought. What's that about? What's happening here? What's going on? Why am I feeling this way? What might this really be about? What's really going on under the surface? Just starting to ask ourselves questions to examine what the thought is about, rather than going into the knee-jerk response we typically have, which is having the thought, assuming it is our own and assuming it is real, and getting critical about it as a way or a means to try and shut it up. We know that doesn't work. If you've done it, I'm sure you have, you've seen, it doesn't really work. It just leaves you feeling worse. So the compassionate approach is learning to say, when I have the thought, I'll observe it, recognize it, which can help you separate it from yourself to say this is a thought, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's me or real. And then getting curious about it. What is it really about? Helping you start to peel back the layers of the onion to understand what's really going on with whatever that thought is about. It's the same with our feelings. When we have a feeling, rather than judging some feelings as good or bad, simply observing that you're having a feeling. All feelings are real and valid. We are humans. We are made to have feelings. It's one of the things that makes us different than some other animals. We have feelings. None of them are right or wrong. So it's just about observing, oh, I'm having this feeling. Oh, I'm feeling sad. And instead of saying, what's wrong with me? I wish I didn't feel this way. How do I get out of this? And trying to will it away or judge it away. Instead, get curious about that feeling. What's going on? What's happening right now that's leading me to feel this way? What's this feeling really about? Sometimes when we examine the feeling, we might say, I'm having this feeling, but when I look at it, it doesn't really actually make sense with what's happening. The feeling is out of whack with whatever's actually going on. So the curiosity allows us to dig a little deeper. Then what's this really about? What else might be causing this feeling? What else might be behind this feeling? So that we can start to really unpack it and understand what it's really about. So that we can tend to the thing that actually needs tending to help ourselves move through that feeling, to allow that feeling to be felt and to move through it versus trying to just push it away or judge it away. And the same with our actions. When we do something, rather than saying, oh, I was bad for doing that, I wish I hadn't done that, why did I act that way, I'm horrible, I'm terrible for that, and being really critical about what we've done, instead just saying, what was that about? And wonder what was happening that made me react that way. What was the feeling that I had at the moment that made me come out and have that behavior instead of maybe a behavior that would have been more in alignment with my values? Not judging it. We all make quote unquote mistakes. We all do things that we may wish we hadn't. That doesn't make us inherently good or bad. It means that we acted in a certain way in a moment based on some feeling or thought we were having that perhaps we didn't analyze and see that it was not our own or that it wasn't in alignment with what was going on. We just had a reaction and maybe we wish we hadn't. But rather than judging it as good or bad, it's just about observing it and saying, oh, I did that thing. What was that about? So that we can, again, begin to tend to whatever actually led us to that behavior. Because when we're having those behaviors that are out of alignment, there's probably something going on, some fear that's underlying them, some feeling that we're not tending to that caused us to push things out externally. So when we can ask ourselves and get curious about what actually caused that behavior, then we can tend to that part of us that's needing care. We can't do that when we just rush to judgment. We're closing off that opportunity with judgment. I like to talk about curiosity versus judgment in this way. Self-compassion is about learning to be compassionate with ourselves, meaning, in a way, learning to be friends with ourselves. What would we never do to a friend? Or heck, even to most strangers. We wouldn't walk up to somebody if we wanted to make friends with them, or if they were our friend, I hope, and say, oh, I already know what you're thinking, right? Oh, look at you, you look like crap. I know what you're up to. You don't like this either, right? Like we wouldn't walk up to someone that we care about or that we don't even know and start judging them or judging what we believe they're thinking or doing. We would walk up to somebody who we want to be friends with or who we are friends with and say, how are you? What's going on in your world? What have you been doing lately? What do you think about this? We ask questions. That is how we become friends with someone. Compassion and curiosity are hallmarks of making friends with people. They are hallmarks of connection, and they are hallmarks of love. We extend them outward all the time. We don't always do the best job of extending it to ourselves. And there's lots of reasons for that, and this is not to blame or shame anyone. There are a lot of external reasons why we don't do that, the conditioning that has been put on us on why we don't do that. So this is not about saying like, oh, I'm bad for having not done that, because guess what? That's going back to judgment. No, it's not that. It's just to say, oh, I observe that I have not always been my own best friend. I have not always extended these things to myself that I maybe extend to others. I would like to do more of that for myself. How could I do that? Look at that. Back to curiosity. Right? That's the key, being curious, not judgmental. And when we are able to do this for ourselves more, it also begins to become much more natural for others, in that we learn how to be compassionate, not just in those friendly moments of getting to know someone or with people we care about, but like when the guy cuts me off in traffic, rather than rushing to a judgment of that guy's a jerk, I don't like him, he must be doing that just to be mean. I can go into curiosity. I wonder what's going on in his world right now. I wonder if everything's okay. I hope there's nothing wrong. I wonder what he's in a rush to get to. And when I'm coming from that place, it's harder to judge him and much easier for me to find some compassion of saying, oh, maybe there's something going on there that made that happen. I hope everything's okay. Learning to have curiosity as your knee-jerk reaction instead of judgment can change everything in your relationship with yourself and with the world around you.